Yo, what's going on everyone? It's Logan from Calling Our Shot, back with some more college football picks. This video covers week 10 slate of college football. Let's have a great Saturday and let's make some money as always. If you aren't subscribed to our channel, consider hitting that subscribe button for us. It really does help us grow this channel. We just passed the 12,000 subscriber mark. Big shout out to you guys in the community. You guys have absolutely been killing it. Austin and I are just astonished day in and day out of you guys in the community. Calling Our Shot is going to the moon because of you guys. Absolute best. If you aren't in our Discord as well, I want to mention there is a link to join our Discord. I'll put it in the description of this video. If you're not familiar with Discord, over 2,000 of your closest friends talking any sorts of gambling. You maybe want to throw a bet in there and say, hey guys, is this a good play? Well, the Discord will answer you. Sometimes I'm in there answering you as well. So you definitely want to go join that. It's a fun feature of this community as well. Let's do a quick recap of last week. 2-2, you know, back-to-back 2-2 weeks. Better than 1-3 or 0-4. That's what I gotta say. But we're gonna build on that, and we're gonna certainly make some money and make some units back from our few bad weeks early on in the season. And we are starting with my best bet. I always like to start with the best bet, and it is in Tulane versus UCF. And I'm taking UCF spread minus 12.5 at minus 110 odds on MGM. This is a homecoming game for UCF. The Bounce House is their home stadium. It figures to be rocking in this one. I definitely think UCF will take care of business versus Tulane. Tulane's offense hasn't inspired anybody this year. It's pretty much back of the pack. 65th in scoring, 68th in passing, and 79th in rushing yards. That's what we like to call a pretty mediocre to bad offense. UCF's offense, it looks different this year with Mikey Keene at quarterback. He's more that game manager style quarterback. They're not trying to throw it all over the field like you've seen UCF in years past, but that's okay because they're still 28th in scoring, 86th in passing. Yeah, they don't throw the ball a lot, and 24th in rushing yards. They want to play that more physical brand of football, and Tulane's defense hasn't shown an ability really to stop anybody all year, right? They got very lucky last week covering versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati spread last week was like what I like to call a sucker bet, and of course I fell into that trap. But Tulane, this week they're not covering. Tulane's defense, 127th in scoring defense, 123rd in passing yards allowed, and 102nd in rushing yards allowed. However, UCF wants to attack Tulane, they'll be able to. Playing at home, I have no faith in Tulane's defense to really show up in this spot. UCF's defense on the other side of the ball has played very well. They played very well versus Temple. How would I know? I was at that game. Yeah, judge me all you want, but my girlfriend is a UCF alma mater, so it makes sense. But the UCF defense really showed up. They almost had a shutout in that Temple game. They've been playing really good, right? UCF, one of their biggest knocks has always been that they can't play defense. Well, 68th in scoring defense, 37th in passing yards allowed, 77th in rushing yards allowed, and 34th in yards per play. So this UCF defense isn't a weak point of their team. I'm looking at UCF to build off of pretty good wins versus Memphis and Temple in the AAC conference, and to take care of business at home. That's why I'm locking in the Knights as my best bet and the first pick of the slate. Now let's move on to our next pick, Liberty versus Ole Miss, and I'm taking Liberty's team total under 28.5 points in this one, minus 120 on FanDuel. Now, if you're one of those people that want to just bet with the public, go ahead and bet the full game over in this one. 96% of people are on the full game over in this one, which, you know what, everyone just thinks it's going to be high scoring. I like to dig a little deeper, and I like to make them a little bit more of the contrarian player in this one. And I think Ole Miss's defense is definitely going to take care of business. Now, if you look at what they've done against SEC opponents, not great, right? They've had some bad showings, giving up 31 versus Auburn, 51 to Arkansas, and 42 against Alabama. Well, good thing Liberty isn't built like those teams, right? We got Malik Willis at quarterback. He's very talented. And you know, Liberty's offense, 16th in scoring, 40th in passing, and 43rd in rushing yards. I mean, this is a pretty good Liberty offense, but I'm telling you, that Ole Miss's defense in the SEC is just a different style of football. Now, if you're just solely looking at Ole Miss's defense, the under 28.5 would be 5-3 on the year, so pretty decent, season wide on that one. Now the Liberty under. So if you were just looking at Liberty's team scoring as far as 28.5, that would only be 2-7 this year. So a lot of people might look at this and say, I'd like to hammer that over. I think Liberty's going to score a lot of points. And not so fast on that one. Ole Miss's defense has just looked atrocious a lot of the year. 83rd in scoring, 90th in passing, and 101st in rushing yards. So you look at this and you're like, well, you know, the over looks just too good. I think the over might be a little bit of a sucker bet in this one. Ole Miss is also terrible in red zone defense, 99th in red zone defense. You're looking at all these stats and you're like, this will just be a high-scoring game, over. And then this game is sneaky low-scoring. That's why in this one, I'm going to go ahead and lock in the under. Lastly, Liberty hasn't really played in anybody of note, right? UMass, Middle Tennessee State, and UAB. Are those SEC caliber opponents? No, absolutely not. I think Ole Miss has some pride in this one, and I believe it's going to be their mission to not let Malik Willis run all over them. That's why I'm locking in Liberty's team total under 28.5 points. Now let's move on to the next pick, and I like to call this one, it's a trap, because if any of you have seen Star Wars, everyone knows Admiral Akbar. He says it's a trap, and it's his favorite line. Michigan State versus Purdue. I'm taking Purdue +3, -109 on Barstool Sportsbook. Yeah, 90% of bets are on Michigan State spread. No surprise in this one, right? The sucker bet, you just look at it and you're like, I would like to pound Sparty. Coming off a really good win versus Michigan. Walker looked amazing in that offense. Michigan State has looked really good most of the year, and they are figuring to be a contender. But not so fast. That's what I have to say in this one. Michigan State barely beat teams like Indiana and Nebraska, and Purdue, is a big game hunter in this one. You look at the spread and you're like, Logan, this just looks so fishy. I know, right? Michigan State -3, right? That just seems so easy to do. Purdue, we already know that they upset Iowa. That was a really good spot for them. Iowa was a trap spread in that one. I think Michigan State is a trap spread in this one. Michigan State's offense, 30th in scoring, 31st in rushing, 8th in yards per play. Pretty good offense, right? We can't knock what Sparty's done. Purdue's offense, 103rd in scoring, 16th in passing yards, and 128th in rushing yards. So they just want to throw all over the yard. I think they'll actually be able to do so versus Michigan State's defense. They're 127th in passing yards allowed. That's where the difference is going to be in this one. You look at the spread, it's just so low. It's pretty much begging you to take Michigan State. I think the vulnerability in Michigan State's secondary is going to be the difference in this one, and I think Purdue does cover that +3. That's why maybe I'll sprinkle a little bit on their money line as well, but I think the Boilermakers cover that +3. It's a trap, guys. Vegas looks the way it does because of sucker bets like us, and we're not trying to make any sucker bets this weekend. We made a few of them last weekend, and they both lost, so let's try to avoid that. Lastly, Army versus Air Force, and I'm taking Air Force spread -1.5 at +102 odds on Barstool. Look, my good friend Matt, who you might have seen on the podcast a few weeks back, he's an Air Force alum. He's going to be at this game, so shout out Matt in this one. But Air Force is off of a tough loss versus San Diego State, but they've also beaten teams like Boise State and Navy, so they've got some pretty decent wins on their schedule. If you look at the other side of the field, Army lost 70-56 versus Wake Forest. That was a crazy game for anybody that was betting in that one. Also, Army did lose close to Wisconsin. So Army and Navy, Army and Air Force, wrong service academy, has been really, really close much of this year. But Air Force's offense, first in rushing yards, second in time on the field, and 66 in scoring. I mean, you look at the tail of the tape of these two teams, it's pretty dang even, right? Army's offense, second in rushing yards, first in time on the field, and 31st in scoring. But that scoring stats are a lot inflated from their absolute shootout versus Wake Forest. I think some injuries to watch for in this one, right? Army's quarterback Anderson left last game, but is probable in this one. Air Force's quarterback Daniels also left last game. He's questionable for this one. So we've got two quarterbacks dealing with some injuries in this one, but there's also a few skill position injuries to monitor for Air Force's offense. You look at the spread in this one and you're just like, why is Air Force favored in this one? I think Army's defense is certainly exploitable. 79th in scoring defense, 7th in rushing yards, right? They play a lot of ground and pound teams, makes sense there. But 114th in yards per play. We saw what Wake Forest was able to do versus that Army defense. They were able to put a 70 piece up on them. Now, I'm not saying Air Force is equipped to do that, but they're definitely they definitely have the offense to be able to move the ball on Army. Air Force's defense is also significantly better than Army's. Air Force's defense, 7th in scoring defense, 13th in passing yards, and 27th in yards per play allowed. That's pretty much a top 20-ish defense for Air Force Academy. Now, this game is played on a neutral site for anybody looking at that, thinking, oh, maybe the altitude is going to be a factor. It's not going to be because they are playing on the neutral site, but I'm going to go ahead and lock in Air Force. I think they have the better offense and the better defense in this one. Game's a virtual pick'em, and I'm going to ride with Air Force Academy in that one. That will do it for the picks for the day. As always, let me know your favorite bets of the day down below. I love to hear what you guys are playing. Also, go check out the other videos. We have some NFL content and some NBA content for your weekend. This has been Logan, and I'll catch you on the next one.